As you run to young people in your lives and you lock eyes with them, you have to ask yourself, what have I done today to preserve their liberty? Because if you do not, you will condemn them.
Our government is making decisions. And if, the decisions they're making, I have a real problem with.
Taking federal grants is wrong, immoral, unconstitutional.
There's a natural tendency of those who get into office to assume that they were born to rule, and the rest of us schlubs were born to be ruled. And they get right offended when they're called out, and this subversive document that's been displayed here earlier this morning, the Constitution, is presented and said, well, this is the limit of what you can do. You don't like to hear that.
What's happening today is what was happening then.
Our Constitution has a genealogy. It took 700 years to write our Constitution. 5 fundamental documents that had to be written, and the first one was not the Magna Carta. The first one was the 1100 Charter of Liberties, and Daniel Webster knew this. He knew that they went from 1100 to 1215 battling for liberty. He knew that they went from 1628 to 1641 battling for liberty. He knew they went from 1641 to 1688 battling for liberty, and from 1688 to 1776 to get the greatest documents that we would ever see, the greatest human rights statements ever written by man, called the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights.
The people of America do not see the enemy from within. It's now just starting to peek its ugly head out of the sands. And we see that in no better agency than the IRS, because every American in this entire country is affected by this agency.
This whole idea that the Supreme Court, may I remind you, is a portion of the federal government, has the authority to grant power beyond the Constitution to the federal government, is an absurdity. And what that tells us then is that the Constitution is not the limitation of the federal government. What is the only limitation of the federal government is the Supreme Court of the United States and the will of the federal government itself. That is not a republic. That is a monarchy.
We have sheriffs standing all over the country, almost 500 who have stood against Barack Obama and Joe Biden's gun control proposals. We have sheriffs individually helping people in their communities against Big Brother government. And we just have sheriffs now really paying attention to their oath of office and truly serving the people that they work for.
These sheriffs are the ultimate executive authority in these counties. These oath keepers, members of the active duty military who will refuse to enforce the autocratic edicts of a president who's become a dictator. I'm proud to be here.
I said all along when I was a cop that the badge and the gun don't create rights. They create a duty and a responsibility. And for peace officers who abuse the authority that they've been granted and act like that they're supposed to teach us all a lesson, and they're supposed to keep all these people in line and make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, or we're going to set up checkpoints and stop everybody and make sure that their papers are in order and that their seatbelts are on. That's subjugation. That's enslaving. That's not public service. And we've got to make sure that we remember that as peace officers and sheriffs in this country, that we're here to protect and serve, to uphold and defend. And that's kind of the motto of the CSPOA. Protect and serve, uphold and defend. Our duty is to our people, our oath and promises to the Constitution.
I took my first oath when I joined the military, and I took an oath when I became a law enforcement officer in North Carolina, which like I said, I've been involved in for more than 32 years. The oath is your obligation to do your duty to the citizens that you serve, and never to forget that you work for the citizens.
It's strictly just an honor and a privilege for me to be here, to see so many sheriffs and chief of police is standing up for the Constitution. This room should not be able to hold all the sheriffs that need to be here, and the thing is, we're just having to educate. All these people have taken an oath, and that oath is to the Constitution, the same oath that I took. Some people are not, I get for maybe political reasons or re-election reasons or whatever, are not making that stand serious, and we need to take it serious.
We're expected to live by that document. That's why we raise our hand and say, I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state that I'm from. And those can't just be words.
This responsibility here, free people, this is yours. I'm here to help. This is your responsibility.
If you go back to the history of sheriffs, even under common law in England, we were protectors. All right, we were the reeves, and didn't have counties, call them shires, and that's kind of how the word sheriff was derived from.
I'm Chief Mark Kessler from the Gilberton Borough Police Department in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. It all started back on January 3rd when I was able to draft the Second Amendment Preservation Resolution, the first in the nation, and get it passed in my little borough, nullifying all gun control laws, all gun control regulations, rules, orders, executive order, anything that comes down against the Second Amendment is nullified in Gilberton Borough, Pennsylvania. If they were to pass a gun confiscation bill like they tried in Chicago and New York, I would have the power in Gilberton Borough to stop federal agents or whoever that tried to come in and disarm my citizens. I put a call out for a auxiliary police force, much like larger cities have, where people volunteer their time. As long as they're certified to be a police officer in Pennsylvania, they could volunteer for my auxiliary police force. Well, I had to put that on the back burner because I got response from all over the country, internationally, and I knew that there's something much bigger that needed to be done.
You have absolutely no coherent argument whatsoever.
Hectoring that I was subjected to by Piers Morgan, I think reminded a lot of Americans, yeah, that's why we're no longer British. And Piers Morgan crashed our server 3 times, people finding out about Gun Owners of America wanting to join, and we had to increase the capacity of the server to handle the increase in traffic that was generated by Piers Morgan. I'm pretty certain that at least twice as many people have seen a YouTube version of that one show than saw it when it was aired live. And it's been, like many times in history, I think it could have been somewhat pivotal, because here's a guy with a British accent lecturing Americans on how we ought to run our country. This is a guy who had to leave England because they caught him fudging photographs from the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, putting British soldiers in a bad light by photoshopping. So his ability to lecture as a foreigner and somebody whose moral authority is highly compromised is fine. And if CNN wants to present him as the reason that we should go back and say, sorry, George III, you were right, let's come back and be subjects once again instead of citizens. If they are of that opinion, I'd say, keep it coming.
You don't give a damn, do you, about the gun murder rate in America? You don't actually care. All you care about
It seems to me that
is the
facts
right
don't
for any
bother you, do they, Mr. Morgan? Frankly, the more they attack and bare their fangs and show what they're really like, then the more we're going to benefit from that, because people say, well, I thought that's what we were supposed to be about all along.
The Second Amendment means what it says, and meanwhile, you want to continue laws against self-defense, laws that prohibit self-defense, laws that prohibit teachers and other faculty, other members of the administration in schools from being able to defend themselves if they have a concealed carry permit. The laws prohibit them right now. We have been lobbying against those laws since they were put on. We will continue to do so, pointing out that that is where the problem is.
We have now data for 20 years of gun-free zones in general. And certainly including schools. All but one of the mass murders that took place in that last 20 years took place in a gun-free zone. The Aurora Theater shooter lived in an area where he could have gone to any of 7 theaters. Only one was posted no guns. That's where he went.
People need to understand that it's a self-responsibility to be able to protect yourself and do the right thing. It's not the government's responsibility to tell you what you can and can't do or what you can and can't have. That's tyranny. That's not freedom or liberty.
Do you want to stop Obamacare? Do you want to stop excessive taxation? Do you want to stop an out-of-control government? Do you want to stop Agenda 21? Do you want to stop NDAA? Every abuse that is happening in our country today can be stopped county by county, sheriff by sheriff, state by state. The states are sovereign. We are not subject to federal direction. They are not our boss. And the best solution to keeping the federal government out of our lives and off our backs are local officials, not just sheriffs, but all local officials saying, there's a few things that you're not going to do here. Shouldn't we be telling the IRS, you're not going to commit your crimes, you're not going to commit your corruption in our jurisdiction?
When they were talking about bringing hemp, legalizing hemp into Kentucky, I was the only law enforcement in the state to stand up in favor of legalizing hemp. And it caused hard feelings with the federal people. It caused hard feelings with the state people, because federal people were looking at $13.1 million that was sent in to eradicate our areas there. And I'm just saying, that's not your job, that's my job. I'm the county sheriff. It caused problems with the state also. And so, yeah, we've had some problems with them. It's, you know, like not a push and shove, but trying to do it in a diplomatic way as to what's acceptable and what's not.
This afternoon, I sat with two officers from the state of Missouri. I know there's a lot in this state. They told me about a land act that's coming down the pipe, where they're going to shut down 18 million acres of property. Folks, that's already happened in my state. It's called the Escalante Staircase. It happened during the Clinton administration. They shut down 1.8 million acres, 3/4 of the county that I was raised in.
I'm getting a lot of feedback from my local sheriff because he's the type of individual that believes if you don't have a badge on your chest or swear an oath to the Constitution, you shouldn't have a firearm. And not that he swears an oath to the Constitution. I shouldn't have said swear an oath to the Constitution, because he's not a constitutional sheriff. He believes if you don't have a badge on your chest, you shouldn't own a gun, period. And he'll be the first one to kick your door in and take your firearm off you. Where me, I'll put myself in between my sheriff if he ever decides to disarm anybody in my borough. He's gonna have to go through me first. And he don't like that. He's up for re-election, and I call him out for what he really is. He's a gun grabber. He's a thug.
Is it inspiring to see people exposing corruption within the police department, or is that kind of hard?
No, it is. No, I like people exposing. I like the YouTube videos because so many people have access to video cameras, you know, right within their own phones. We're exposing what's been happening all along. It's just that cops, before all this technology, were getting away with it. The martial law tactics and the abusive tactics that were used after the bombing in Boston were really abhorrent, and I was embarrassed by it. It's okay to investigate and go after criminals, but we got to keep the rules. We promise to follow the Constitution, and there is no justification for violating the Bill of Rights as we go after criminals. That's the people we're chasing.
We are already living in a police state. The National Defense Authorization Act, where they can actually hold Americans indefinitely without trial, without access to an attorney, without even notifying your family, indefinitely. That is the true definition of tyranny. When you fear your government, you fear to speak out. When you fear to sign your name to a list because you say, I don't want to be on a list, that is tyranny defined.
Part of the NDAA, the provision that says that a detainee will have no access to a lawyer. Lindsey Graham on the floor of the Senate said, shut up, you don't get a lawyer. Now this is American citizens, guys. We're not talking about some member of Al-Qaeda captured on the battlefield in Afghanistan or something like that.
We're talking about an American citizen in your home, dragged out of your home by the United States military on the command of one person, President Obama. This law purports to give the president the power to turn the United States military into his personal police force. Why? Why are we allowing this?
Accountability Office found out that in 2006, 49,000 national security letters were issued. Served on Al-Qaeda terrorists? No. 60% of them were served on U.S. citizens and legal resident aliens. They need no warrant. They need a handwritten warrant, arbitrary power in the hands of the agents, arresting and seizing people with no Fourth Amendment protection whatsoever.
My name is Deputy Stan Lennick with the Albany County Sheriff's Office in Albany, New York. Been a deputy 6.5 years, stationed currently at the airport. I got invited out here after, this was last year on Black Friday. Two individuals by the name of Jason Burmis and Ashley Jessica came to the Albany International Airport to hand out information with regards to the body scanners that TSA use, at which time they were approached by a public relations guy from the airport authority requesting them, actually demanding them to stop recording, stop passing out literature. And at that time he called us, the Sheriff's Department, to respond. Upon interviewing everybody involved, I felt that it was their constitutional right.
Let me see your identification.
I don't need to show you my identification. He doesn't have to show you his identification.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Show you identification. I want his name.
I just told you
their
my name.
names. Okay.
My name is Jason Burmis. B-E-R-M-A-S, sir.
I can't give it. I can't give you that. I can't give you that.
Okay.
Okay. I mean,
well, the upstairs is now closed to all particular passengers.
Okay. All right. Just so you know. Yep. Okay. He's not doing anything wrong. Okay. If I ask him for
authority guidelines, he is.
Oh, as far as New York State penal law, CPL, and B&T law, he is not doing anything wrong. Okay. If I was to ask him for his identification, he does not have to give it to me because he's not doing anything wrong. Okay, and I cannot give you that information. Looking at the YouTube videos after the fact, I was quite surprised at some of the reactions that other individuals were getting at other airports.
Educating people right now as to what law enforcement can actually do and cannot do has caused me some problems. Because, they're saying, well, what do you tell people that for? Because that is their right to know that.
There's a lot of pressure out there oh man, I've got to make an arrest here.
Government wants to control the society as, okay, we need a law for seatbelts, we need a law for cell phones, we need a law for this, we need a law for that. We need a law for, barking at the moon at 12 o'clock at night, and, it's just ridiculous. How many more laws do we need?
The thing with liberty here, especially when you're talking about government, it keeps government in their place. And that's why it's important to me. I mean, when the document, the United States Constitution was created, it didn't include my ancestors. Right? It didn't include women. But we got it right. And now with the 13th Amendment and then the amendment that allows the women's suffrage movement and all of that, it started at the grassroots level. That's what this whole thing is about. And if we look away and we get too far away from that more, we're going to be in big trouble.
We should trust a government that has run fast and furious and has never even said, I'm sorry for the 400 dead Mexicans that we know about so far, let alone the 2 dead federal agents. Our government was complicit in mass murder. And it's not even one of the scandals du jour.
The sheriff in Boise, Idaho said, well, I swore an oath to uphold and defend the entire Constitution. And the Supremacy Clause grants supreme power to the federal government. How many of you agree with that, Sheriff? Raise your hand if you agree with that sheriff. He's a current sheriff. And that's the most foolish statement I've ever heard. In other words, he's saying the federal government, because of the Supremacy Clause, can do whatever it wants, even though the Founding Fathers said they devised the Constitution to prevent that. To keep government confined and under the chains of the Constitution. They don't have supreme authority or carte blanche. In fact, Article 1, Section 8 was there to develop a system of showing that they only get these assignments and everything else must be referred to the 10th Amendment, which is what we sued the Clinton administration on, and we won.
Each state can decide to nullify an act and the other 49 can go ahead and enforce it. If you get enough people aware that a state is nullifying all unconstitutional federal acts, liberty-minded citizens will be drawn like a magnet to that state. That state will become a magnet of liberty. That will cause them to elect more liberty-minded state reps and liberty-minded federal reps. And maybe down the road we won't have as much of a need for nullification because you'll have some federal officers who understand that their behavior is confined and defined by the Constitution of the United States.
There's definitely a building consensus that we need some solutions to what's going on because history teaches us where it's headed if we don't do something about it.
The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is when good men do nothing.